Hi, folks. We'll get started in just a few seconds, waiting for any stragglers to join. All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. This is the webinar for the FY25 Ocean Acidification Coastal Research, Uniting Investigations and Shipboard Experiments, or OA Cruise NOFO. I am Lazarette Fairbanks. I'm the Environmental Research Manager and Field Operations Manager for NOAA's Ocean Acidification Program. And I'm joined today by Erica Ombres, who's a Program Manager for OAP. And Erica will be manning the Q&A today. As we get going through the webinar, if any questions come up, feel free to write them in the Q&A box or in the chat, and we will get to them at the end. All right, so our agenda today, we'll do a NOFO overview, talk about eligibility for this opportunity. We'll go through full proposal requirements as well as evaluation criteria in detail, discuss a little bit about grant system registration, touch on the timeline for this opportunity, and then we'll have ample time for any questions that you might have. So I'll jump right into it with the NOFO overview. So NOAA's Ocean Acidification Program, or OAP, is soliciting proposals to complement core observing activities on the upcoming East Coast Ocean Acidification Cruise, ECOA 4, which is slated for summer 2026. Any activities proposed under this opportunity should expand the ocean acidification focused observational and experimental capabilities of this repeated oceanographic cruise by fulfilling level 2 or level 3 priorities in the OA Cruise Science Priority Guidance document. I will go through more in depth about what those level 2 and level 3 priorities look like a little bit later in the NOFO or in the webinar. The ECOA cruise is a repeated cruise, and the last ECOA map is on the right here. So I just wanted to give everybody kind of an overview of the landscape of this mission. So it covers the US East Coast from Miami all the way up to Nova Scotia. And the cruise consists of these cross-shelf transects starting near shore or even in estuarine waters, and then crossing all the way out to beyond the shelf break. The ship will stop at stations along each of these transects and do a full suite of CTD casts along with biological sampling and other measurements, which I will also touch on a little bit further down the line. But just wanted to orient everyone to what this cruise looks like. Okay. So what are level 2 and 3 priorities? So the OA Cruise Science Priority Guidance divides research activities conducted on coastal OA cruises into these priority levels. So we have level 1, 2, and 3. Level 1 is core, and they're required within available resources. Level 2 are desirable with additional resources or leverage. And level 3, oh no, I've lost my slides. Here they are not to interfere and can join with space availability. So more details about these levels can be found in the document linked in the upper right corner. It says NOFO 2023. But it is the correct link. It's the same document we used in the last opportunity. This NOFO specifically is soliciting projects that cover the level 2 and 3 priorities. Level 1 will be covered under a separate opportunity. And in summary, these activities include a breadth of measurements, but they can be things like additional carbonate chemistry or related measurements, biological measurements co-located with level 1 observations, in situ calibration of remote sensing instruments, on-board experimental work, research and development of new techniques or technologies, and outreach and education initiatives at sea. So now into the funding details. So OAP anticipates approximately $350,000 will be available to support 1 to 3 projects total, and each project will be funded at $100,000 to $250,000 total over 2 to 3 years. We anticipate that projects will begin on September 1st, 2025, and each project should include pre-cruise planning, cruise execution, and post-cruise analyses and data archival over the 2 to 3 year project period. Our priorities for this opportunity are that projects must achieve level 2 or level 3 activities as outlined in the Cruise Science Priority Guidance document. And additionally, projects must address at least one of the following priorities, which are to expand the observational and experimental capabilities of these repeated OA research cruises to better achieve the strategic aims of OAP, and or address at least one priority research theme in the NOAA Ocean, Coastal, and Great Lakes Research Plan 2020 to 2029. And that is linked at the bottom of this slide. Projects must also fit within the operational and logistical configurations of repeated OA research cruises. So ECOA 4 is anticipated to sail for 40 days between May and September of 2026 from Nova Scotia, Canada to Miami, Florida, and the exact timing and duration is to be determined. The research vessel is anticipated to have similar capabilities to NOAA ship Henry B. Bigelow, and for more details on what those capabilities are, please reach out to me directly. And we anticipate that the ship will be equipped with atmospheric and oceanographic instruments, underway carbon sensors, dry and wet labs, deck space for laboratory vans for additional room, and winch and A-frame capability. The projects must fit within the operational and logistical configurations of these repeated OA research cruises. So I went through kind of the basic, that map of what past ECOA cruise has looked like. So the projects must fit within that. So those primary operations include the sampling transects from near shore to beyond the shelf break, and we're doing CTD and Niskin casts at about 200 stations throughout all of the transects. Proposed projects can request special augmentations as necessary. So for instance, you could propose a limited set of select stations that are targeted for diel measurements, where the ship will station keep for 24 hours and run a bunch of experiments in the same place. But all of those things should be included in your proposal and will be reviewed for how they fit within the framework of the cruise. Any selected project will also need to work within the time, lab space, water budgeting, and ship capability constraints on the cruise. There are a lot of moving pieces on these types of missions, so just keep in mind that it'll have to fit within that matrix of projects. OAP works to establish a culture of professionalism and respect through violence prevention and response. As such, all cruise participants will be required to undergo sexual assault and sexual harassment training, and OAP will provide a SASH liaison on board. There is a link on this slide to find out more about NOAA's Workplace Violence Prevention and Response Program, and any selected projects will be given more information during the cruise planning process. So now for eligibility. So eligible applicants for this competition are institutions of higher education, nonprofit and for-profit organizations, and federal, state, local, and tribal governments. Foreign institutions may not be the primary recipient of awards under this announcement. But if an applicant has partners who would receive funds, the lead grantee will be expected to use subawards or subcontracts or other appropriate mechanisms to provide funds to the partners. Applications from non-federal and federal applicants will be competed against each other. And before non-NOAA federal applicants may be funded, they must demonstrate that they have legal authority to receive funds from another federal agency in excess of their appropriation. The Economy Act is not an appropriate legal basis in this case. So now we can move into the full proposal requirements. So full proposals will consist of 4 overarching sections. And those are the project narrative, the budget narrative, standard forms, and a logistical spreadsheet. The project narrative has several components, the first of which is the project description, which is 7 pages and is really the meat of the application. So it consists of a cover page, a project abstract, background, objectives, and details, milestones and deliverables page, an outreach plan, and a diversity statement. And suggested page lengths are all written here on the slide, and they're also included in the text of the NOFO. The project narrative also includes supplemental materials. So these are your works cited, 2-page CVs for each PI, a list of current and pending support for the PIs, and any letters of support. Also includes environmental compliance material. So these are existing permits or a timeline to secure any needed permits, and then information on expected environmental impacts of the work that you're proposing as needed. Project narrative also includes a data management plan. This is 2 pages, and it must be compliant with NOAA's public access to research results plan, linked here. The post-cruise data reduction, quality control, and coordination and sharing with other cruise participants should be performed within 12 months of the cruise. And then final submission of your data to NCEI OCAD's portal is required no later than 2 years from collection. So kind of coordination, quality control, 1 year, and then submission is 2 years after the cruise. A link to OCADs and to PAR requirements are at the bottom of this slide. Next is the budget narrative. So applications must include a detailed budget narrative to support all proposed budget categories for each fiscal year of the project. An applicant requesting funds for indirect costs in its proposal budget that has a current federally approved rate should submit documentation of the indirect cost rate agreement as an attachment, and an applicant without a federally approved rate can refer to this section in the NOFO regarding your options for those rates. Next are the standard forms. So these are a bunch of federal forms that need to be included in your application. First, SF 424 is our application for federal assistance. 424A is budget information. It'll show the overall budget breakdown by object class by year for your project. 424B are assurances for non-construction programs. The CD 511 is a certification regarding lobbying. And then the SFLLL is a disclosure of lobbying activities, if applicable. And the fourth major requirement for your proposal is this logistical consideration spreadsheet. This is really important when we're talking about kind of projects fitting into the matrix of everything going on ECOA 4. This spreadsheet is where you'll provide all of those details that will then be used to assess that kind of fit of your work into the overall cruise. So here you'll provide information on things like the sampling depths that you need at each station, the number of Niskin bottles per cast that you'll be sampling, the sample volume, the rinsing volume, how much berth space you need, or lab space you need, or deck space if you need a lab van, refrigerator, hazmat. If you'd like to do activities like net tows, you'll indicate the number of stations and sampling time. And then there's room for others. So if there's any other consideration you have, you can indicate it there. If you're bringing any instruments, that will need to be attached to a CTT rosette. We'll need to know that. If you need permits or you need cranes or wire time, all of those things will be indicated here. So we have the needs listed on the left, and then we would like each person to, or each project to write overall what they will need, but then also break it down by measurement. So if you're proposing to run 4 different measurements on ECOA 4, tell us how much water you need for each of those. And then in the overall column, say the total of those 4. This really helps kind of figure out how each measurement fits in, as well as your overall project. So now for evaluation criteria. We have 5 criteria total. The first is the relevance and applicability to the program goals, and this is 35% of your score. This ascertains whether there's intrinsic value in the proposed work, also indicates the relevance to NOAA, federal, regional, state, or local activities, includes the appropriateness of the proposed effort to the ECOA crews, and also includes how well the effort addresses elements listed in the OA Crew Science Priority Guidance. The second criteria is technical and scientific merit. This is 35% as well. And this assesses whether your approach is technically sound or innovative, if the methods are appropriate, and if they will be piloted or demonstrated prior to the execution of the cruise, and also assesses whether there are clear project goals, objectives, and data management considerations. Our third criteria is overall qualifications of the applicants. This is 5%. And this ascertains whether applicants possess necessary education, experience, training, facilities, and administrative resources to accomplish the project. Fourth are project costs, and this is 10%. And this evaluates the budget to determine if it's realistic and if it's commensurate with the project needs and the time frame. And fifth, we have diversity, equity, inclusion. This is 15%. And this assesses how well the proposed activity broadens the participation of underrepresented groups in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So the review and selection process. There are 5 steps here. The first of which is an administrative review, and this is conducted to determine the compliance with requirements and completeness of the application. So any applications that are missing required elements or coming from ineligible applicants will be rejected without further review. Next, the applications that pass that administrative review will be reviewed by technical experts, and based on their scores, a rank order list will be created from the average scores from those written reviews. Next, the proposals will be reviewed by the program manager to assess the environmental compliance of the proposed actions. And then fourth, a feasibility review will be conducted by the OAP Field Operations Manager in conjunction with the Chief Scientists of ECOA 4 to confirm that the proposed effort can be achieved on a given cruise within the context of berth space and water budget limitations. So that's the step where all of the matrix of projects are considered. Fifth, the results of the review will be presented to the selecting official who will make their final decision. I do want to note that this funding opportunity is being released in tandem with a non-grant opportunity to sail on the ECOA 4 cruise. That opportunity is called non-grant access to ECOA 4. and it will provide awardees with berth space, lab space, and sampling opportunities aboard ECOA 4 without a monetary award. So this is open for people who don't need funding to participate and would just like a berth space or lab space. Proposals from both opportunities will be reviewed holistically to determine how best to optimize the scientific impacts of the ECOA 4 cruise. And you can contact me, my email is there, for further information on that opportunity. So now a grant system registration overview. So there are 3 websites or systems that each applicant will need to be registered in before they're able to submit their applications. The first is sam.gov, second grants.gov, and the third is ERA Commons. And the links to all of those are on this slide. Check with your institution's grant manager to see if there are already institutional accounts for these systems. Processing new system registration can take up to 4 weeks. So if there's already an existing account, that will save you some time. And because of that time need, we recommend doing this as soon as you can. So for sam.gov, prior to registering with ERA Commons, applicant organizations must have a unique entity identifier, or a UEI, from sam.gov. Registration for this can take 2 or more weeks and requires annual renewal, and registration guidance is can be found at the link at the bottom of this slide. For ERA Commons, this is something before submitting in grants.gov, applicants must register in ERA Commons. So the ERA registration can start while your organization is waiting for the final sam.gov approval of a UEI, but the organization has to have a complete sam.gov registration in order to submit your final application on grants.gov. Registration for this must be completed by the organization signing official and can take up to 4 weeks. And again, the guidance is at the bottom of the screen here. And lastly, grants.gov. So to submit an application, organizations must be registered in grants.gov, and organizations must register after receiving the UEI from sam.gov. And prior to submitting, the organization must first register in ERA Commons. So you need your UEI from sam.gov, must register in ERA Commons, and then you'll be able to submit your application in grants.gov after you've registered. Registration here can take 2 to 4 weeks, so the time is kind of building here. This is why we recommend that you get started on these registrations as soon as possible. Guidance for the grants.gov registration can be found at the bottom of the screen here. Lastly, our timeline. So full proposal applications must be submitted to grants.gov by 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time on January 31st, 2025. This is a hard deadline. Applications received after this time will not be reviewed, so make sure that you get them in before 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time on January 31st, 2025. We will then conduct our reviews and make decisions in the spring. So with that, just stay tuned. You can subscribe to the NOFO and receive any updates at the link on this slide. The funding opportunity number is here. It's NOAA, NOAA, OAR, OAP, 2025-28702. And I've included a screenshot here of what the grant opportunity looks like on grants.gov. So you see the red button that says subscribe on the upper right, right next to the apply button. So we highly recommend subscribing. This webinar will be posted to the NOAA Ocean Acidification YouTube channel for further reference. There's a QR code here to the YouTube channel. You will also, as attendees of the webinar, receive a direct link after it's posted. And then you can also check out NOAA OAP funding news at the QR code on the right. And with that, I think we can move to the question and answer session. Again, full proposals must be submitted on January 31st, 2025. And if you have any additional questions, feel free to email either Erica Ombres or myself at our emails listed below. Thanks.
Thanks everyone for bearing with us with our technical difficulties. If you have any questions, you can enter them in the chat now. I am not seeing any questions yet, Liza, but folks might be avidly typing them as we speak. So we'll give people a few seconds.
Sounds good.
And if you don't have any questions, but think of one later, please do let us know. We're happy to help. All right, I'm not seeing any questions. If you have a question and are trying to type it, feel free to raise your hand right now. It's there's a little raise hand button. So we don't end this before you finish typing. Nope. Going once, going twice. All right, I don't think we have any questions, Liza.
Awesome. All right, everyone. How to reach us via email. And thank you again for hanging on while my Wi-Fi restarted. Appreciate it. And I think we can end there.